My name is Mark Oliver Calumba. I have a 10-year-old son who has ADHD. I'm also the one who started the Facebook page, the ADHD Support Group of the Philippines. Is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Some kids or some people who are diagnosed with ADHD, they can't focus on any tasks that are given to them or that they should be doing. And on the other hand, there are also behaviors wherein they have a very high energy level. They run around, they can't focus, and they have this tendency to disrupt the class. We started seeing the behaviors, difficulty with his speech, medyo may neurodevelopmental disability. He also has attention deficits. For example, at the age of 5, some kids are already starting to tie their own shoelaces, and he can't. He also has difficulty focusing, especially on his handwriting. He doesn't have much of the hyperactivity part. Also, at the age of 5, he is very sensitive to loud noises, sensitive to light, like even sunlight. If it's too warm for him, he doesn't want it. He doesn't like it. On grassy areas, he doesn't also want those grass or plants touching his feet or his legs. Even though the hypersensitivity part is not a manifestation of ADHD, but it's something that was also diagnosed during that time, and that also includes like him difficulty focusing on some subjects, specifically on math. Because he also has what we call dyscalculia. Sadness, confusion on what should we be doing. Can we overcome his disability? At first, it was difficult to accept, but after a few months, we just focused on what can we do to help him. We also learned that it's not a hopeless situation for him. And at that time, we started seeing the bright side of things. On my situation, it was not difficult. It was part of the company's benefits. So we got a free checkup and diagnosis at that time. We get the right support. But eventually, we also were given suggestions by our developmental media. We need to have him do a therapy. It was kind of expensive because on top of the tutor that we had to get for him for his school activities and his lessons, there are also therapy that we had to do outside to help him with his psychomotor and everything. And when I created this group 2-3 years ago, we always have a lot of questions like, where can we take our kids for therapy? If there are any cheaper options, is it really necessary for therapy? We have seen a lot of good progress in terms of his social interaction. As I said before, parang he's somewhat aloof. He can play with his toys alone and he's good with it. Pero right now, he wants to be with people in parang a party, even if he knows that there's gonna be loud noises and everything. And on the other hand, yung sa focus part, there are things na he can put more focus on. For example, he may not be able to focus much on math, pero He has very good grades when it comes to other subjects that has history, that includes mga like for example araling panlipunan, when he has more interest in the like different branches of the government. He can memorize flags, he can memorize regions, places in the Philippines. We have seen him grow on other aspects of his life. First, institute a national health system program for PWDs, and we have observed na they're implementing it especially for those with a physical disability. I think we lack the other forms of disability, mental, psychological, neurodevelopmental disabilities, or learning disabilities part. Although there are private organizations, clinics, therapy centers who caters to those needs, it's not accessible for people who cannot afford it. Even if there's PhilHealth, even if there's PWD cards that they can get discounts on, but these things, these therapies are somewhat expensive. It could range from 400 to 700, even up to 1,000 per session. And some kids, they are required to have 2 or 3 sessions per week, even more. The parents, after diagnosis, they're just gonna think na it's okay. All I have to do is just probably research online and do my own intervention at home. You know, there should be more help given by our government, help the society, spreading awareness about these disabilities, remove the stigma of the society. And the second, the government also has to help out these people. The PWD cards are not enough. Help us out with parang, you know, if they can collaborate with private organizations, so that they, or private companies, therapy centers or clinics, na they can subsidize a portion of the therapies, that would help a lot, the parents a lot. Right now it's difficult to ask the right questions from the right people. With good information from our government, we can also get form of communication for the PWDs, going into one information page, or group owning that information. At least we could have a better communication, better information on how we will be getting help for these different kinds of disabilities. It would help them a lot, because the goal dito is to prepare them for the future and make them a productive individual. We do not have to give them an excuse na if they have this disability, they don't have to be productive. They don't have to be a productive adult in the future. Parang as early as now, as early as the diagnosis 3 years old, we can already get help or seek assistance, so that by the time they started going to school, or they reach elementary or high school, they can cope up with the things that the other kids are doing. Even if they feel that I have been diagnosed with ADHD, but it doesn't make me someone who would only depend on my parents financially. I can do things on my own. I can be productive. I can earn my own money. Not a lot of people have had their kids diagnosed. Possibly there are a lot of kids undiagnosed with this disability, and without the intervention of the government, we do not know if these kids would become successful, would become productive in the future. We had to get as much help from different groups, from parents, from government, so that we would be able to intervene on what skills they need to possess, what to focus on, what kind of therapy they need. For me, it's not a situation you cannot overcome. There are a lot of ways that you could get help. Think of alternatives. If you can get help, if you can seek help from your local government, then ask. It would help if you ask. There are also different groups, volunteer groups, such as the different groups helping out parents with ADHD. We had to work together. You have to be patient enough, and you also have to keep that hopes up for your kids. Although they have been diagnosed with ADHD, they're still people. You'd have to have that acceptance na it's not a common thing, but it's something that you should not be losing hope on. As long as you are willing to spend time in helping your kids out, as long as you have given your commitment to help your kids so that they can be a productive individual, then you'd have to do it. It's not just gonna take 1 year, 2 years, 5 years. We feel that it's a lifetime commitment for them. As long as you're alive, you have to be there for them. The ADHD part is just one thing. You have to also think na there are other things in the future that your kids will be asking your help on. And at that time, they're no longer kids, they're probably adults, but they're still gonna need your help. Even if they're productive, even if they already have their own work, they have their own profession, but you have to be there. You have to understand that there are still tendencies of them having those anxiety and depression, and be willing to help out if they need it as a family member.